We give thanks to the sun for its light and its warmth, for its nourishing force to the earth. We give thanks to the water which sustains all life, which freshens our eyes and responds to our thirst. Water that makes home possible. We give thanks to our non-human teachers, thanks to the plants that pull themselves towards the light, thanks to the mushrooms that mysteriously grow, thanks to those whose ways sustain us all. We give thanks to the animal ladders that fly above or crawl below. We give thanks as we learn and recognize them as family. We give thanks to this air in our lungs. We have plenty. Robin Wall Kimmerer is a practitioner of gratitude, a mother, scientist, decorated professor, and enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. She is also an author, and in her books she brings us the teachings of plants and the ways of the mosses. She tells us stories from indigenous wisdom and intermingles them with Western science to show us the many winding paths our knowledge can walk upon, and its many guides. Gratitude is one of our guides, as she always begins with gratitude. Gratitude makes us strong, it makes us rich and joyful. Its presence does not lead to passivity or acceptance of injustice. To the contrary, gratitude shows respect for all that is given. It reorients us towards what is essential to life. As she writes,
allegiance to the water and the wind knows no boundaries.
Allegiance cannot be bought and sold. No matter how much capitalism tries to quantify ecosystem services, to value how much oxygen the trees give or how much carbon the forests store, you can never get it quite right. The trees and the forests do it just by being. There is no price tag you can put onto life. The question we should ask instead is,
how well do we do by them?
And then,
what would it be like to be raised on gratitude?
So when we breathe in, when we give thanks, we realize we can have plenty of what we really need. Gratitude reminds us of what is essential.
Gratitude for all the earth has given us lends us courage to refuse to participate in an economy that destroys the beloved earth, to line the pockets of the greedy, to demand an economy that is aligned with life, not stacked against it. Plants are often seen as inferior life forms, incapable of movement, speech, thinking, or anything deemed worthy of consideration. In the eyes of many, they are not much more than objects, more akin to rocks than humans. But in indigenous teachings, plants, among others, are viewed as sovereign beings. The modern human world is composed of many people, and humans are only one small part of this democracy of species, in which the personhood of each is acknowledged. Robin Wall Kimmerer invites us to look at all the siblings on this earth with wonder, and to recognize the many ways in which plants are our teachers. Even though they don't use language to communicate their messages, plants can always teach us something, so we might as well listen. After all, plants are the only creatures that knows how to take light and water and air and transform them into nourishment, not only for themselves, but for every other being on this planet. So what lesson can we learn from them? Kimmerer writes that plants teach us generosity by creating food, medicine, purifying the air, consolidating the land, providing shelter, and even beauty. Plants teach us the value of gifts. But what are our responsibilities for all that has been given to us? For all the gifts we receive from the plant world, gratitude alone is not enough. There has to be a way of giving back, of protecting those who give us life. Thus, plants also teach us the lesson of reciprocity.
In a garden, food arises from partnership.
Notices Kimmerer, pointing out how only through mutual care and commitment can a plentiful harvest be ensured.
When berries spread out their giveaway blanket, offering their sweetness to birds and bears and boys alike, the transaction does not end there. Something beyond gratitude is asked of us. The berries trust that we will uphold our end of the bargain and disperse their seeds to new places to grow, which is good for berries and for boys. They remind us that all flourishing is mutual. We need the berries, and the berries need us. Their gifts multiply by our care for them and dwindle from our neglect.
We know too well how to take. Some of us humans, we take with little regard for the destruction that we've caused. What if instead we ask how to live ecologically, in a manner that reciprocates the gifts the earth has given? We can learn to become givers, and the plants can teach us how.
A long, long time ago, so long that it stretches time back upon itself and comes back to the present, there were 3 sisters who lived together on the land. The eldest stood tall and proud, with golden brains swooshing in the wind. The middle sister wore orange dresses, dancing on the ground around the others. The youngest sister was slender and feisty. She could only stand up with the help of her eldest, but her feet were well planted in the ground. You might know their names as corn, squash, and beans, but together they're called the sustainers. They live best united, keeping one another safe. The corn provides structure and the beans crawl up against it. Downwards, the beans' roots fix the nitrogen in the soil, while the leaves of the squash keep shade and moisture and ward off insects. It is ancient indigenous knowledge that they not only grow well together, but mix beautifully on the table. Not only do they taste great, but they are healthy too. A full meal. The corn turns sunshine into carbohydrates, beans provide protein and fiber, and squash gives vitamin C and beta-carotene. Kimmerer writes that
being among the sisters provides a visible manifestation of what a community can become when its members understand and share their gifts. In reciprocity, we fill our spirits as well as our bellies.
living this well means having the knowledge to do so, and indigenous knowledges have sustained people for countless generations. Yet when Kimmerer went to university, the professors dismissed her curiosities. Asking plants who they are and what they can tell us was not considered scientific. The botany she was taught was mechanistic, and questions about beauty or reciprocity did not fit that model. Western science meant humans would discover the world and use it for their benefit. No questions asked. But for Kimmerer,
experiments are not about discovery, but about listening and translating the knowledge of other beings.
one might think there is hardly a way forward from these two distinct worldviews, but Kimmerer proposes we learn from the three sisters instead. Like them, these knowledges are different, yet they might stand better together. It is known that polycultures are more resistant than monocultures. Might it be so with knowledge as well? The idea of this knowledge garden is that all can be fed. The eldest one is the first to be planted, the structure of our knowledge mutualism. First, we honor indigenous knowledge, on which others can grow. The youngest, the beans, stand for scientific knowledge. They are powerful, curious, and enrich symbiosis. Middle one, our dear squash, can create a climate for multiple species to grow. This is our educational space, sustaining the meeting of knowledges. And let us not forget the fourth sister, the gardener, that is us. We must stand these knowledges so they mingle, so they retain what is individual to them, to the best of the community, so they too can give their precious gift, and we, in reciprocity, can answer. With humility, we must
know we can learn from intelligences other than our own.
With determination, we must respect what is given, protect our environments and vulnerable cultures. With joy, we must understand we, too, are here to give back our cherished gift, whichever that is.
In indigenous philosophies, relationships between humans and a more than human world are guided by stories of kinship, of proper reciprocity. One such set of principles is known as the honorable harvest. The teachings of the honorable harvest are simple. First, never take the first plant you see, it might be the last. Second, always ask permission, for the gifts we receive are not our possessions, but are given to us. If you ask, you must then listen for the answer. Is there enough for us to take? Is the population large enough and healthy to be shared with us? If the answer is no, we must refrain. We then ought to take only what we need and nothing more, for we must remember that we are not the only ones who live off the land. We share it with many others, human and non-human. Of course, taking only what we need can be tricky, especially when the lines between needs and wants are blurry and working in our favor. At this point, we can practice listening to non-human others, to their desires, to their resistance, and then respect their decisions, undoing our anthropocentrism. Ultimately, an even greater credence in the honorable harvest is to take only what is given to you. Honoring what was given means taking it in a way that does the least amount of harm, and not being wasteful. Lastly, we must remember that an honorable harvest is one that brings mutual benefit to all. For the gifts we receive, we must give back. We give back thanks to to our plant siblings, but also our care. We spread their seeds, we water them, and keep the soil healthy.
Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the ones who sustain you, and the earth will last forever.
Robin Wall Kimmerer asks us to imagine how our world would look like if the honorable harvest was our guiding principle. How would it be if we asked permission to the forest and the geese and the deer before building a highway? Our many systems of law are very different from the honorable harvest, but they don't have to be. In fact, honoring indigenous knowledges means also honoring indigenous laws, treaties, and sovereignty. Countries ruled by settler systems of law should make space for indigenous legal orders in an effort of decolonization. But all of us globally would learn from the teachings of the plant and from traditional ecological knowledge in our reckoning with colonial relations, with the anthropocentric destruction of the earth, and ongoing climate disasters. We can take a step back, put our feet firmly into the soil, and let it tell us. Ways of mutual care are already here. We must only listen. What else can you offer the earth which has everything? What else can you give but something of yourself? A homemade ceremony, a ceremony that makes a home.
Robin Wall Kimmerer tells us that ceremonies should be reciprocal co-creations. The community creates ceremony, and ceremony creates communities. They should not be cultural appropriations from native peoples, nor should they be there for the benefit of the market, for buying and selling. They should foster, instead, an active relationship with the more than human beings. They should be a way to recognize the knowledges of the non-humans, each with their own gift. They should offer a way to honor the land and to deepen our relations. We end with a ceremony so as to be able to go forth. We take a deep breath. Fill our lungs with air, a gift to all of the breathing, living beings. Our chests rising and falling tell us how connected we are. They tell us we can find a proper ceremony to honor this earth and all of her inhabitants. And we will.
Go,